Howdy, folks. I'm a curious Carolina chickadee, cautiously considering creepy crawlies.
I remember.
And here are more creepy crawlies for us to consider eating because we're chickadees. Let's get started. Alright, folks, and our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Going Out for Cigarettes in the Middle of My Date? I'm a 39-year-old female, and I walked out on my date, Joe, a 39-year-old male, last night after he acted disrespectful and inconsiderate. He's not a boyfriend, we're just friends with benefit until last night. I really wanted the relationship to progress, and in the beginning, he showed me a great deal of care and was even loving. But as we developed our connection, he started doing things that were hurtful. For example, he eyed another guest at a party and talked about how hot she is. This was awkward because I didn't know how to respond. He was not my boyfriend, and saying something might put me to ridicule. On 2 occasions, he laughed at my emotional response, and on 1 occasion, he said that he could tell that I was jealous because my shoulders got all stiff. I won a coupon to a cool restaurant and went to redeem it and invited Joe. We ate and drank and generally had been on a good run for the past few days. All of a sudden, he said that he had a terminal disease and thanked me for the gesture. He went on talking in a very serious tone about leaving his family and how he just wanted to live life to the fullest. I broke down and started crying, and I couldn't stop. It was extremely painful, and I couldn't regain my composure. I wasn't sobbing or anything, I was just crying quietly. He took to calm me down and eventually said that it was a prank. I thought that he was just lying to get me to stop crying, but when he cracked into laughter, I had it. He ordered more drinks, and I excused myself, and I went to the bathroom. I found our waitress, and I redeemed my coupon, and I paid the remaining amount only for my food, and I left. The original arrangement was to use the coupon and combine it for the whole check. He called me about 15 minutes later, asking if I was okay, and I said yes, but I needed a few more minutes. He sounded confused and called me again and again until he called me all irritated, asking me what was going on, and said that he was in front of the restrooms. I refused to answer any of his questions. He asked me for the coupon, but I said that I didn't know what he was talking about. I blocked him after that. His siblings had to transfer him money so that he could pay, according to his friends, in which I've been rebuked since. To be honest, I never said anything about a free meal or the ticket being used exclusively for his food or paying for everything. It's not my fault that he ordered $200 plus in food and drink, and I can use my ticket however I want. His cousin says that I'm in the wrong because I exposed Joe's financial situation, and he was singled out by the restaurant manager, and that he was humiliated. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
Not the jerk. While generally walking out of a date like that wouldn't necessarily be a good thing, anytime someone is cruel, OP paid for her portion. She didn't stick him with her portion or anything. He just had to pay his own share. And what he did was just beyond cruel, and I can see why she wouldn't want to stick around and hash it out with him when he's just gonna stand there being like, it was a joke, now pay for my food, give me the coupon.
Yeah, I have a hard time faulting OP. I think that they may have been able to handle this in a slightly better way because after she already paid, she could have said that, oh, I'm gone. And I think with her blocking him, it was a pretty obvious I'm gone at that point in time anyways, right? Who makes jokes like this, right? Jokes, I'm going to put that in heavy emphasis because this isn't what this is. This is just cruel emotional manipulation.
Right, and clearly this guy gets enjoyment out of making OP emotional and harassing her for having emotional reactions.
Yeah.
Nothing about this says good partner. This man is not someone you want to be in a relationship with.
Yeah. It seems like OP and this guy had different expectations for the relationship. It seemed like OP thought that maybe they would eventually progress into something more than just friends with benefit, whereas he just seemed to have no interest at all in making anything more out of this relationship.
But was perfectly happy to exploit OP's interest in him, to basically use it for his own enjoyment.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that that's actually a really good point here because he knows that she's emotionally invested, and at a certain point you need to just stop leading someone on, right?
Right, because he points out, when oh, look, you're jealous. And in the comments, OP mentions that he would refer to their dinners together as dates.
Yeah.
So he was using language to kind of lead her on, essentially.
And as for his bill, $200, there's got to be a limit on that coupon, right? Mm-hmm. I can't imagine the coupon was for $200 here. So her splitting the cost of his meal would have still probably been a pretty good chunk of change, right? I think that this guy is pretty irresponsible, and like you said, I think he's just taking advantage of OP, and he pushed it too far this time. I think he was trying to get an emotional rise or attachment out of her to make her kind of be like, oh, look how valuable I am to you, or like he was trying to judge to see how upset she would be about that, and I think that he played a horrible game, right? And I feel very bad for OP. Well, let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Mobile Prune 3207 says, it sounds like he wasn't interested in a relationship and wanted to keep being friends with benefits. The comments about the other girl, the pranks, those were things that friends would do to each other. The question is, did he know that it was a date, or did it just seem like two friends grabbing a meal and a few drinks? And OP replies, he always referred to our outings as dates.
Well, and as for his pranks, like, I wouldn't even say that would be friend territory. Like, those aren't things you do to someone you care about.
No. I think, like, again, he may have, if you wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, which I don't actually want to, but suppose he just was oblivious and didn't know that she was more invested than he was in this relationship, right? Then I think that doing things, taking her along to places where he's going to be hitting on other women and stuff like that, is actually just cruel. And I think that if maybe he was naive, which I don't think was the case, I think he was just doing this to get a jealous reaction out of her, to kind of make her work harder.
Yeah, or even just getting benefits out of her. Like, if he was expecting her to pay for the meal, you don't pay for your friends' meals, but you might pay for a date's meal.
Yeah. And Hoshi Jones says, not the jerk. People are saying that you shouldn't have left like that without paying for him, but I'm applauding you for it. There is zero reason why you should treat someone with the respect that they refuse to give you. And Charlotte Lucas, OP, says, he spent his portion of the coupon when he made her think that he was dying. That kind of behavior isn't free. And Seaworthiness Salt 692 says, you just freed yourself from some serious pain and trouble. He was a walking red flag. No one in their right mind jokes about a serious illness like this. His behavior was unacceptable, and you did not owe him a free meal. He clearly wasn't ready to go out for dinner either. And Anakin Skywalker is fave says, not the jerk, he lied about having a terminal illness, and then he laughed at either you or his sick and twisted prank, both of which aren't acceptable. You are not in the wrong. Joe chose to eat at the restaurant and tell a horrific lie. He put himself in this position, especially since he ordered over $200 in food and drink. I imagine he was like complaining about the manager giving him a hard time and stuff like that. OP telling the waiter that they were out and seeing her like crying and stuff like that probably didn't endear him to the wait staff. What do you think about that? I'm imagining that they were like, maybe we should give this guy a hard time because he seems like not a very good person. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for calling my mom delusional for thinking that I had a good childhood? I'm a 23-year-old female and I have a twin, Angela. Angela had leukemia as a child. She has been cancer-free since we were 10, thankfully. But since she was sick a lot as a child, I was basically invisible to our parents. Angela and I were still best friends at the time, but my parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, etc. basically forgot that I existed within that time. They sent me to a boarding school from ages 8 to 14. I understood that they had to send me away when Angela was undergoing treatment and they didn't have the capacity to take care of me. But it was excuse after excuse about why I couldn't come home for 4 years after Angela was cancer-free. Eventually they brought me back when I was 14, but I was very antisocial at that point and just stayed in my room all the time. I spoke to Angela here and there, but we weren't super close anymore because we had been separated for a while. Well, last night I was at my parents' house with my boyfriend. My parents were showing my boyfriend the photo album of me and Angela as kids. I have some as a baby, but not many after the age of like 2. My boyfriend asked if there was another photo album because he wanted to see what I looked like from growing up. My mom said that there weren't any more pictures of me, but he can just look at the pictures of Angela since we were identical, and that's the same thing. I got pretty angry at this and said that we were two separate people, and she should just say that we weren't interested in taking photos of me when I was growing up because they had other things to worry about. But looking at Angela isn't a replacement of the pictures that I don't have. My mom said that I should have sent more pictures of myself when I was at boarding school, so then they would have some stuff to show. I said, wow, one would think the responsibility of having pictures of a child growing up would be on the parents. When my boyfriend left, we had a bigger conversation about this. My mom said that she felt that earlier conversation showed that I resented her and dad for that period of time when they were taking care of Angela. I admitted that I do kind of resent them for that, especially the part where they took 4 years to bring me back home after Angela wasn't sick anymore. My mom said that their reasoning was that they felt that I was settled down and that I was having a good childhood and that they didn't want to disrupt my life by bringing me back. I was shocked to hear that I was having a good childhood at a boarding school far from home. Are you delusional? My mom has been crying since, and my dad is angry that I made her upset over something that happened so long ago. He said that I won't understand how hard it was for them until I become a parent myself, and that I should apologize to my mom for talking to her like that. I admit that my tone was harsh, but I don't think that I said anything wrong. Am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. I mean, the whole idea that OP and her twin are just interchangeable, like, oh, just look at the twins' photos. Like, yeah, they might look physically similar, but that's not the same person.
Yeah.
And to just treat them like, oh, yeah, we don't need things of OP because we have this other daughter who it's I really do get hints of favoritism here going on. And I understand they were having a rough go of it when they had one daughter who was going through cancer treatments. I understand that's not an easy thing. But it seems like they just were contented to leave OP at boarding school for as long as possible.
Yeah.
It seems like OP asked them to come home and they just kept delaying. So they couldn't possibly have actually thought, oh, OP must be having such a good time.
Yeah.
They just lied to themselves to make it easier.
Yeah, well, I would say that OP probably should seek out counseling and therapy. I think that they probably have a lot of feelings to talk about and a lot of things to work through. And they have a lot of resentments. And that's understandable given the background that they have. I feel bad for them because it's clear that they didn't want to be at that boarding school and they didn't feel that that was their best use of their childhood. And I understand where the parents are coming from to a degree, where they had a really hard time handling both kids, especially with the cancer treatments. And so they chose to make a difficult decision at the time to send OP away to boarding school. But again, they should have listened to their daughter when she said that she wanted to come back home. And I know that they think on some level that they did the right thing because they're like, oh, well, OP was having a good time. But did they ask OP? And I mean, certainly, I really feel that this situation is not a great one and that they probably should have had a great deal of family counseling once everything got settled back down, because that might have helped to resolve some of the lingering resentment and whatnot, because now it seems like it's taken a long time to fester.
Well, and the mom needs to hear this, and she and the dad need to rethink their actions because they seriously dropped the ball. There's a certain point in time where it went from, well, we can only handle having one child right in the house right now, to we are doing this out of our own convenience. Like, why weren't family members coming to visit OP at boarding school? Why weren't they checking in on her, making sure she was okay, sending her care packages? It sounds like she was basically abandoned and isolated from 8 to 14.
Yeah.
And if that's true, they should feel bad. The mom should feel bad for just straight up abandoning her daughter. And I understand she was under a lot of stress and pressure, but it sounds like that ended at age 10. There were 4 years when they were just perfectly contented to let things go. And the whole extended family as well, like grandparents, aunts, uncles, cousins, why weren't any of them reaching out to OP?
Yeah, and I mean, I'm certain that at a certain level, OP probably felt like they were doing something to help their family when they were at boarding school, and they were willing to kind of deal with it at that time. But I imagine, once their sister was cured, they probably wanted to go and see them and hang out with them, and they never got those opportunities, and time just kind of dragged on more and more. And 6 years for a kid, that's a pretty good chunk of their lifespan, right?
Well, and think too about how it must have been for OP when her sister was going through cancer treatments, because they were best friends before that. And like to be left out of that entire process, like I honestly don't think the parents had OP's best interests at heart. They were more concerned about themselves and like what was most convenient for them.
Yeah.
To like strand your daughter, she doesn't know what's going on with her sister necessarily. Like hopefully they gave her updates, but like she can't be there to see her sister, to support her sister. It's just...
It's a hard thing. It's a hard thing. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Puzzle-Headed Mix 1658 says, wait, so even before they sent you to boarding school, they have less photos of you and always favored her, not the jerk? And OP replied, we have a few birthday pictures of me and Angela together, but not many others. Angela had a lot more of her alone for some reason. I don't remember where I was in the photos when they were taken, but I'm not in them for whatever reason. And Alternate Cap 8990 says, definitely not the jerk. Your parents never took the time to ask you back then if you liked being at the school. How would they know if you were being well settled in? They also didn't feel like they missed something of your life. Saying stuff like, look at the picture of our daughter, it's basically the same, just shows how ignorant they are about your childhood. Alright folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
What did the fawn say when their friend knocked over the bucket?
What did the fawn say? He said, hey, don't knock over the bucket.
FAWN.
That's the
okay.
answer.
Oh dear.
Oh dear. That makes sense. That makes sense. And I have Mega Mint. Alright folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday! Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please, have it in the form of things never to say when you're on a date.
Well, you should never fake a terminal diagnosis on a date. I feel like that's pretty sound advice right there.
Yeah, you know, if you're ever on a date with somebody, don't tell them that you have a terminal illness. That's generally a good rule of thumb. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye!